Moneycontrol, in partnership with Sears and Google Cloud, is hosting an exclusive roundtable discussion. We'll discuss the latest trends in the BFSI sector, how cloud technology enables banks to offer customers a fast, secure, and intuitive experience, and what will be a hyper connected financial world in 2025. What will that look like? Thus, advancing their digital roadmap. To talk about the future of banking and digitization, we're now joined by Anubhav Goyal, the head of digital innovation at HDFC Ergo, Mr. Ankur Tripathi, Chief Information Officer, IT AU Bank, Sriram Srinivasan, the head of digital banking, Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, Mr. Zach Murad, Chief Information Technology Officer, CRISIL, Mr. Rohit Verma, Principal Architect, Financial Services at Google, and Mr. Shashi Tripathi, Senior Director, Sales at CS. And I am Reema Tendulkar, Anchor and Editor at CNBC TV 18. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure having you with us. We have an elite panel of experts to talk about how banking sector is going to be reimagined. Anubhav, my first question is, the financial sector is constantly evolving with technology. First, we had online banking, then banking apps, and now mobile first challenger banks. Um, the banking sector and the insurance sector is getting redefined. What are the big trends that you're observing? What are your key priorities?
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much, Shiva, for inviting, and thank you, CS and Google, for hosting this event. I think it's really, really needed in India that we start talking about this topic and generate a lot of content about it. I think there are a couple of trends which I'm seeing in the insurance sector. I think one on the health insurance side, which has always been a push product, has actually become a pull product now because of COVID, and we saw so many people. The inflation raised big time when it comes to the health expenditure. So I think we are seeing a massive pull on the health insurance side. Like that's the one trend. I think second, people the way they are looking at embedded finance, I think people are looking at more and more embedded insurance as well. So all the fintech, all the consumer tech companies who have data want to become fintech, and that's where they are expecting us to be very technologically agile and give the products to consumer where they are. So whether it's a large fintech like a phone pay who's going very big time mainstream into insurance, so they will expect us the responses which they will expect from a new age company as well. And I think the third interesting paradigm which is shift which is happening within the insurance is about the entire services and the claim experience. People expect the similar experience which they get from a cashback or a return from an Amazon, from an insurance company as well when they come for claim. We always joke in the company that we are not in the business of insuring people. We're actually in the business of giving claims to our consumers when at the times of need. I think that is becoming more and more mainstream now, where people are saying that give us the claim experience as good as a cashback or a return experience of an Amazon. So I think these are the top three trends which I'm seeing, Rima.
Ankur, many banks are using AIs like, a contact center AI, for instance, which is helping with personalized communication. We're trying to get an intelligent conversation going online, but the experience still falls short. Can you talk about what is happening on the consumer front side?
Sure. Thanks, Rima, for having me here to talk about contact center experience. In fact, banking has moved beyond the contact center with the rise of video banking, and we are seeing the kind of uptake and the overall experience because your voice conversation is not that emotions driven, and you cannot replicate the branch like behavior while doing the transaction. So that is, I agree to your point in that sense, is falling short of building all those consumer experience. But now we are seeing a rising trend towards the entire video banking, thanks to the cheap availability of data and smart devices to everyone, not only in tier 1 cities but tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. And same kind of experience we've seen for last 7 8 months, just kind of accelerated due to pandemic. No one wants to move out. Everyone is more comfortable doing a video call and connecting with their banking RM and getting all those activities done. And today's technologies, all those cloud native apps and ability to process enormous data at scale has enabled all kind of analytics AI capabilities, where you can pass any kind of structured unstructured data and give those insights in real time. So that is a truly green game changer, which we see in years to come as far as banking and consumer experience disruption is concerned.
Sriram, would you like to add to that? The financial services industries is very, very competitive. It's always been, and now you're getting competition from fintechs as well. And the basic service is also fairly commoditized. So the differentiating factor now is going to be on the customer experience side. So can you tell us what you are doing on the technology front to enhance customer experience?
Indeed. Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Uh, I'm in Ujjivan Bank, where our mission is to provide the best-in-class experience to the unserved and the underserved people in India, who unfortunately are quite a large number. And I think that digital technology, and you mentioned that fintechs are competitors. Well, that might be the case, but I also see fintechs as partners. So we can collaborate with fintechs. We collaborate with we're leveraging the India stack and also the power of the cloud, as well as um, using insights from big data and machine learning to provide even better experiences to these unserved and underserved people, many of whom are now, thanks to as a silver lining of the COVID, are also now used to banking digitally and to making payments digitally. So I do see this as a huge opportunity for us to provide better and better services to them, using the power of technology in collaboration with fintechs, in collaboration with the India Stack and API banking and open banking.
We'll come to API and open banking, Mr. Sriram. But Rohit, come in on the aspect of cloud. Due to security, data privacy challenges, the BFSI industry largely has been resilient, to adopt cloud technologies. So they've preferred on-premises or maybe even private cloud. Do you see that changing? What are the big trends that you are observing now?
Yeah, so I think that's an important point, Rima. The trends are changing very, very rapidly as we speak. I've been in touch with various organizations over the past few months, and partly because of the innovation that cloud brings to the table, a lot of financial institutions, whether they are insurance companies or banks, or for that matter, even brokerages, they are now looking at cloud as more than just a platform to run applications. Okay, so they are looking at innovative ideas that we bring to the table and how they can consume these ideas and give a better experience to the end user. Look, at the end of the day, it's about delivering a hyper personalized experience to the end customer. And to be able to do that, cloud technologies can offer significant capabilities or enhancements over what we have today. Let me give you a couple of examples. In a country like India, where there is diverse set of languages being spoken, contact center automation has now moved beyond just being able to do a chatbot interaction in English. We are now talking about human-like interface or human-like interaction happening on the back of AI capability, and this interaction happening in vernacular rather than just in English. So that whether the person is in any part of the country, the organization, the bank, or the insurance company can interact with her in the language of her choice rather than in one set language. The other idea that is again emerging very, very rapidly is being able to extract sentiment from these conversations, whether it is a conversation with a contact center or whether it's a conversation a customer is having with the bank on social media. It's not just about extract the data and put it in a structured format. It's about leveraging AI to extract sentiment and then responding to the customer in a way that addresses the needs of the customer as quickly as possible. So so these were just some examples, but coming back to your point, Rima, the trend is changing very, very rapidly. I've seen an exponential pace in which adoption of cloud is being taken up by the BFSI segment, primarily because of the innovation that can happen sitting on top of the cloud platform, and that goes much beyond the infrastructure conversations that were previously the scenario.
So, cloud is more than just a computational or a storage facility now. It's used so much more for value added services. Shashi, would you like to add anything on it on how, with the help of cloud, we are um, and cloud and leveraging AI, we are able to scale, operations and maintain a high level of customer satisfaction?
I think all the peers touched upon multiple facets. One thing which probably I have seen, and services partners like us or companies like us who are working within the cloud, the area which also has gained a lot of momentum and which we were seeing in the fintech space, right? That can an end-to-end service be provided to the customer digitally? So if you take banking, if you take insurance, if you take any other service provider within the BFSI segment, right from customer onboarding, right, till the whole service game, and then for every service request, anything that is happening within the value chain of the customer, can everything be digitized? And I think this place also AI or cloud plays a very very vital role. Rohit touched upon the CCAI part of it, but there is a lot of work and a lot of models and a lot of tools and ammunition available today on the document side of it, whether it is lending AI, whether it is document AI. A lot of things, a lot of these platforms today are able to get the entire onboarding process, the service request process, if it is part of any part of that whole story, and get it automated. So I think this also is a very very critical element of AI which is happening. The second part where AI is helping, right, and I'm sure people will talk to it and allude to it when it comes with the data story. But AI also is being used today in the area of security. AI is also is being used in the area of fraud analytics, right, or fraud detection. So if you look at it not only from an operational standpoint, but from a customer experience to servicing customers' requests to fraud analytics to security, AI and cloud are playing a role in all those segments. And the true sense of digital banking, whatever was possible, whatever was missing, right? A lot of these new age companies are showing the path how to leverage cloud, how to leverage each of these tools and technologies, and provide a very, very enriching and a seamless experience to customers. Rima.
Now to provide end-to-end services digitally, to optimize data, to enhance, extract value from it, to provide security as well as in cyber detection, fraud detection as well. Anubhav, coming back to you because Shashi just spoke about providing services end-to-end, and you all deal with onboarding, renewal. There is a claim journey, and for so many product lines for health, motor, personal accidents, and interactions can take place in any format. How are you using cloud and digital technologies to have a very unified view of interactions a customer can have with your brand and optimize the customer's journey?
Sure, yeah. So I think the idea is obviously to give a unified view, but I think the bigger issue is that can we be present where the customer is present, right? And I'll give you a few examples that we have recently done in multiple places, right? And you, I think, rightly picked up the entire value chain of the insurance cycle as well. So when somebody calls us, right, and they're interacting with their call center agents, we actually use Google's AI modules there on Google Cloud, where we could convert those interaction from voice to text, and basis those texts, not just the sentiment analysis, but we could also identify certain keywords where we knew that this person is already ill and now he's looking for a health insurance, right? And the cost of such a customer can be really really huge. So that was the one thing which we did. The other thing we did with the other cloud player, where when the car is going through an accident, like now there's a lot of pain when somebody has to go to workshop and then the surveyor has to come. We have developed a technology where you can click the image of the car from certain angles, and we can tell you that how much money will it take to repair that car, or whether the car is serviceable or not. That is something which we made live, I think, around 8 months ago. The same tool is now being used while selling car insurance as well in a break-in cases. When somebody's policy is expired and he wants to buy insurance, the power has been given in the hand of a consumer, where they can actually click the images of their car, and we can give them insurance right there. So these are the two examples where we have used the image AI extensively, right? Like the voice to text and from text to sentiment and the entire image part. Another thing we have done is in the health claim side, where when the health claim comes to us, there's a massive amount of documents which come, right? Like the 200 odd documents which comes in. We have built a platform where we have the ability to understand what document it is, right? Whether it's a discharge summary or whether it's a medical bill, from an hospital, and we are able to use the OCR technology and put the data back into the system, and by which we are able to detect frauds as well, right? So I think these are the couple of interesting use cases which we have built, over last 3-4 quarters on various use cases of AI. Because for us, it is very very important, right? Our entire P&L can go for a toss if we keep giving claims which are not right claims, or we keep insuring people who are not very very healthy without data. Yeah.
Zach, we've been talking about the retail experience, right? And that is very different from an SME experience, which is where you come in. Can you talk about how you are using digital technology? What are the big trends that you're observing when you interact with your SMEs and ask from you?
Yeah, thank you. And I think a lot of my colleagues covered some of the major areas, right? Cloud is here to enable speed and agility, and our clients are expecting a lot of speed as we start to go through the transformation and digitizing the entire journey. As we start to talk about consumer and retail side, everything is getting consumerized. And then from an enterprise perspective, that is also starting to become an expectation. So mobile experience from an app perspective is something that they're starting to look for, and also heavy security. So as we start to get data and we start to move data around, and we start to share more and more data across enterprises, security becomes a very, very large issue. You hear about ransomware attacks, you hear about all of these incidents that are starting to happen. Security is something that we spend a lot of time working with these days. So as you look at cloud, what does it enable for you? It enables speed and agility. It allows you to basically exchange, information with each other and then do it in a very secure way. And that has to be designed from the bottom up. So our clients are expecting API first. Our clients are expecting ability to be able to showcase that we're managing things in a secure way. Our clients are expecting speed and agility as part of that conversation.
Uh, I'm going to, there are manifold benefits of cloud, right? Speed, agility, which is what Zach was mentioning, but it's also expensive, right? The initial shift to cloud. Does cost act as a bit of a barrier?
We are already in the transformation journey from moving lots of workloads from on-prem to cloud. So initially, it might look slightly expensive from that point of view. But if you add up the benefits of agility, scalability, manageability, and the entire operations, in a 5 year, 3 year, 5 year TCO kind of a view, it is beneficial, and more than the
But do
cost
you
angle.
face any challenges? Are you facing any challenges in your shift from on-prem to cloud?
No, so as a bank, we don't have much of a legacy issues with respect to applications, whether they are cloud adaptive or cloud native. So not much challenges. But the point to your earlier question that I was trying to highlight is the way things are moving towards digital first, mobile first, and all those things. It would be very difficult to manage the peak transaction volumes, transaction loads, and payments for that matter. The way UPI transactions are peaking out, and you see certain spikes, it would be very difficult to manage in a on-prem kind of an environment in a long run. So it more than cost, it has for certain applications, certain challenges, it would become a necessity.
Okay, it's a must have now. Rohit, we briefly spoken about cloud, and all the speakers today, all the companies that they're running generate vast amount of data. The problem is this data exists in silos. The data is not standardized, but we need to extract value from it. Can you talk about the data strategy that companies should look at adopting? What are some more nuances to the data strategy?
Sure. So, I mean, look, data is absolutely critical, and the thing with financial services institutions is that they have lots of data, and as you rightly pointed out, the problem is that data is sitting in silos, and getting full value out of that data is the big challenge. And if there was a data strategy that could help address those problems, it would be essentially consisting of three things. First is the ability to bring together all the data that the customer shares with you. It could be in the form of an application the customer has made, or it could be in the form of an email the customer has sent to you, uh, highlighting some challenges or highlighting a issue with the servicing of the account. So the first pillar of that strategy is being able to collate data from multiple sources and in multiple formats into a single platform, which then becomes the platform of running all the analytics and the insights on top of it. Okay, so you have the data in one place, which is the first pillar. The second is, as I said, is about analytics, which is running machine learning models, running AI models, but also running some basic analytics to extract insights from that data. What is the expected lifetime value of the customer, as an example, or what is the churn propensity of that customer, as another example? Can you get to an accurate assessment of these analytics, which is better than traditional ways, using things like a machine learning model or an artificial intelligence model that extracts sentiment, like I said? So the second pillar of that data strategy is all about analytics sitting on top of the data that has been collated from various sources. And the third and very important element of this strategy is the ability to activate this information. See, data is only as valuable as what you make out of it. There is no point running analytics if you cannot make use of that analytics. So the third part is about activating these insights into the right channels within the organization. Can you make information about the customer available to the front office executive, so that whenever the customer comes to the branch or calls to your contact center, the executive has complete information about that customer? What was the last payment made? What was the last premium amount paid? Is this a high churn risk customer, and so on? And accordingly react to that customer, so as to give the customer a very personalized experience, which also in a way is very beneficial to the financial services institution, because you're able to do things like cross sell better. You're able to generate goodwill amongst the customer about giving them a personalized experience when interacting with you. So so just uh, just about just to kind of conclude on this point, when it comes to data strategy, it's all about collect, analyze, and activate. Anything that you do, you have to make sure that you look at it in these three pillars, and accordingly build up the platform that you want to build to address the needs of your customer.
Okay, that is nicely put. Data does sit at the heart of all companies now, and monetization is the key. And the three-step approach is collect, analyze, and activate. Shashi, would you like to share your thoughts on what the right data strategy should be, how companies should go about it, and how, if there are any challenges that companies face in this?
I think Rohit has covered it pretty well from whatever the strategy part of it. I'll just deal with couple of challenges that I have generally seen whenever people have start looking at it. Whenever you start on a data journey, whether any organizations, I have generally people seen, or rather many organizations start with a data lake or a warehouse without having the end goal of what you want to generate out of it, because the downstream story, right? Once you have a lake, a warehouse, or a mart, whatever you want to build, because after collecting the data, preparing the warehouse or the lake, what are the downstream activities, and how are you going to create value out of it? What is the value chain out of the data post this, is something which people don't comprehend and start off to begin with. Majority of the times it is okay, let's get all the information at one location and then we'll figure out what to do next with it. So just avoid that, because ultimately, what is your end goal and where you're going to move? Is it going to stay just at a data warehouse or a data lake level, or are you going to use and evolve more part of it, and what is the end game? So that's one area which I have generally seen people not think about. The second part of it is, there are sometimes sources which are looked at data which is batch information, and a lot of key streaming information or real time data is left out. So if you think about as a comprehensive data strategy, look at from all sources of your information and decide and make sure that you're formulating a data strategy on that angle of your data. The third part is, have you also considered structured and unstructured together? Now, when you take all of these things, right, in these three things which I mentioned, you might be able to build a very, very comprehensive and a sound data strategy of what you're trying to do. Because as I mentioned, the tools to do it are there, right? But have you decided your end goal with the data? Have you looked at streaming batch real time all and then structured and unstructured data? If you envisage and do all of this together, hopefully your data strategy will be much more complete.
But isn't it complicated today to extract value from unstructured data? How do you filter out the noise?
So maybe I can come in here, maybe Rohit and Shashi, and we have been like working together as well with Google for a while. But I think so, I think the question which you asked about TCO and the use cases, right? And I think the three things which they just spoke about. I think in the so-called legacy organizations like ours, the other challenge is the entire data governance part. So even when the data is sitting in silos, those systems are in silos, of course. But whether the data governance between those systems are there or not, that itself is an issue. And the way you were talking about the entire downstream processes, right? Your front end also have been built in a fashion which is not really agile to consume those insights coming out, right? So whether, let's say, if you use a Google Cloud and you're using a BigQuery and you are using a Looker for seeing the output, but how do you send those instant nudges to people outside? That challenge is not there with the startup, right? Because they think from day one that they don't even need a data strategy because data is at the core of whatever they are building as a tech stack. I think the tech stack today in most of the companies have been built over a period of time and they have not really evolved. And that's where the entire data governance is an issue and the ability for a platform to consume from there and the ability of the front end systems to consume those insights is something which is a big challenge. So the way we are doing it now is we are putting these use cases directly into the business case and the long range plan of the businesses. So if we are saying that if we invest into cloud, the idea is just not to do an infra lift and shift, but because of this, if the cross sell upsell are going to increase, or my retention rates are going to go better, or my underwriting will be better because of which my portfolio will be better, how will that reflect in the business numbers? And the moment we do that, then the entire conversation looks just very, very trivial. But it is not an OPEX CAPEX discussion anymore, right?
Yeah, if I can add to this, I think you touched a little bit on this where, you have large organizations with a lot of legacy data stores, and there's an organization structure around a lot of these all these data stores. So you may have, let's say, 20 departments, each one maintaining their own data store, and a lot of that IP inside the data is locked. All the business value is locked. So as you think about data governance, that's one aspect of it. But then the bigger challenge is, how do you link all this data together in a way that allows you to be able to tap into this potential value? So by moving into the cloud, by having a structured framework, allowing each one of the departments to really understand what's there in the other silo, and then having a streamlined platform that allows you to be able to internally exchange data, allows you to basically tap into that value. Because once you do that, then you can start to think about how to take data from external sources and also share it across the enterprise in a systematic way. So some of the platforms that you look at get into, understanding the metadata, and the new data stack that you look at, you can start to visualize to see what that data actually means, and then start to put together an architecture that allows you to be able to deliver things like analytics and things like being able to, now monetize the data on top of it. So if you start with, taking all of the data and then throw it into a single place, what we talked about, you may end up with a swamp, right? Because you haven't really put in the governance framework, you haven't put in the lineage associated with the data, you haven't put in the things like data quality. A lot of these items are just not there. So if you don't have these items, then essentially you end up with, what is called a ball of mud, right? You don't really understand the data. And the cost also starts to escalate very, very quickly. So I think, as you look at that strategy, that's the first thing. The second thing is really looking at the execution side and how you can execute at scale. If you have a much smaller scale, then you can, certainly move forward with the traditional warehouse approach that may be good enough for you.
Sriram, would you like to talk about your data strategy, how cloud is enabling you to do more with your data, how you are using
Certainly.
AI and ML on top of the data that you're generating?
Certainly. Sure. I think my fellow panelists have touched upon many of the very critical things here. So I don't really have too much to add there. However, some of the things that I do notice around the data is, some hygiene aspects which sometimes are missing. I'm sure not in this case. While data about the customer is being used to cross sell or is being to drive better efficiencies across the bank or the organization, I do find that in many cases that data is not being used to improve the client's own experience. For example, the same question is being asked to the client when they call or when they walk in or every time they need to fill up a form, even online. If the data already exists, it should not be required of the customer again and again. Of course, in some cases, it might be needed for authentication and so on. So this is probably my 2 cents to add on to it, to try and use data better for client service. Or even in an extreme example, which is something which I had put into place in one of my previous organization, is to anticipate a service issue. While a customer calls, the data already tells you why they're probably calling. And that can be used to prime the frontliner, the person who's taking that call, to be able to get the information needed. And in some cases, to even give the customer a pleasant surprise to say, sir, you're probably calling about XYZ, that thing that has just happened to you or has happened. And here's how we are going to solve it for you. And that is going to make one really happy customer who will be, raising your NPS scores a lot. Coming to your question in terms of ML and AI, what we can do with the data, we are already putting together quite a few ambitious plans around credit scoring, especially in the case of uh, Ujjivan, where we are serving uh, the underserved who don't really have that much of formal documentation. However, being able to come up with better credit models will help us to serve them better, to offer them probably better rates, or in some cases, predict risks which may not be apparent through the just going through the bureau scores and the so-called formal metrics. And this is something that we're experimenting with. However, early indications are quite attractive. So that I think is one very tangible but extremely important use of machine learning on the data that we already have. The key to this is to integrate some of the unstructured data that's available. Sometimes even use photographs or video uh, data that we have captured from the client, and then bring this all together. It's a process of experimentation at the moment. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to move on now to open banking because that's causing more changes in the financial landscape. So, Anubhav, if you want to share, how is the open banking ecosystem evolving in India? How are you participating in it?
No, so essentially, it is like yet to mature and in India, but I think banca remains a very very large part of the cohort for us when it comes to customer acquisition. So we are interacting with all the India stack which is happening. We are working with the account aggregators who are working now. We are working with all the neobanks as well because they have very different sort of needs when it comes to insurance play there. But I think we are more on the sidelines, to be honest, right now, Rina. But we are keenly watching that how it evolves, and given the fact that banker partnerships are going to be the large channel for us, any which way going forward, we want to be ready when it comes. So whether it's account aggregator or the new banks which are coming in, we are engaged with all those startups already.
Ankur, would you like to step in? Are you participating? Are you providing access to your products and services through APIs to third party developers and partners?
Yeah, so Rina, for that matter, open banking is a lot more talked about in last few years, and with the, I guess, advent of account aggregator and associated ecosystem, it has now come on to reality from more from an organized point of view. As a bank, we are involved with all the ecosystems in terms of getting onboarded on account aggregator and participating in all those ecosystems on one end. Second aspect is obviously with all that fintech evolution, neo banking, and everything is concerned. So though there are certain nascent, certain slightly mature developments in the fintech ecosystem, and they are building good products, good customer experience. So there is a natural affinity to partner as a bank in terms of distributing our products, getting more and more customer acquired through alternate channels or digital channels, which are more digitally native millennial customers. And in the longer run, we that is the customer segment that everyone wants to go after. So we have built our API stack. We've exposed it to third party ecosystems, including fintechs and all those, let's say, account aggregator, e-marketplaces and whatnot, and continuously building use cases on that.
Zach, can you talk about now the account aggregator platform and how that is helping address the credit gap in the country?
Yeah, I mean, as you look at, the digitization, the more data you have available in aggregate format, the more deeper intelligence you can provide. So, we provide, ratings, for example, across a very large swath, right? And as we look to get deeper insights, a lot of the rating itself requires a lot of this data input in order to be able to provide deeper insights. So that's helping us, put that together. So if you look at access and you look at data providers, uh, you know, you want to be able to digitize the way that you extract data, and that data comes in many formats, right? A lot of the manual feeds that you had before are starting to get converted into a digital format, so that when you standardize the way that you manage the accounts, for example, the way that you manage, what the ratings themselves are happening, you can put in things like early warning. So if you're a company, for example, that wants to understand, you have positions in, areas, and that you want to understand whether your positions are at risk. How do you do that, right? In a faster way, so that you can manage that risk. So we're spending a lot of time. We have products that allow you to be able to manage your risk, either it is from an external exposure or internal exposure, and getting that in a digital format through products allows you to be able to manage that more effectively.
Okay, let's move on to other technologies like RPA, drones, AI, telematics. Anubhav, amongst these new technology trends, which one can make a meaningful impact in the insurance sector in India?
I think connected cars is something which we are really looking forward to, because that is a big area, especially with the arrival of EV in the country. I think that is a sector which we are really looking keenly at, because telematics, we have been trying to do multiple pilots with multiple OEMs, but there's always a resistance from a consumer side. So I think with the EV and the connected cars is something which we are really looking forward to. And the second is not really the technology part, but the entire India stack, which is around the national NHA, by which the new health ID is being created for the entire citizens of the country. I think that is the second thing which we are really looking forward to. So I think that will ensure that a lot of standardization will happen on the health side, and the entire connected car will ensure that we have more and more data about the driving behavior of the individuals. Because right now, when we do a car insurance, we don't really look at the behavior of a driver, right, and or the uses of the car. I think those are the things which we want to do in the car insurance side. And on the health insurance side, we are really looking forward to the advent of national health ID. A few states have already started experimenting that. But I think when that happens, I think the journey of a consumer from absorbing any of the health ecosystem partners is will be like very frictionless. So these are the two things which we are really looking forward to.
Thank you. Sriram, what would your expectation be from organization like Google Cloud and its partners, Sears, in your
Mhm.
transformation?
I see a lot of value in organizations like Google Cloud and their associates in terms of what we can do. I see huge benefits in terms of time to market, not necessarily in cost, but probably that also. But I think the biggest impact is going to be around time to market, around flexibility, and sometimes in the kind of sheer amount of data processing power that can be harnessed in the short run by using, for example, TensorFlow or TPUs and so on to crunch through large masses of unstructured data like images or videos. So those are certainly quite exciting. And this is something we're very actively exploring and also already investing in a few strategic areas.
Ankur, same question to you. What would your ask be? What next are you looking forward from Google Cloud as well as Sears? Are there any technology gaps that you would like to be filled? Are you looking for some more help? In what way?
Sure. So as a bank, we have taken measurable steps to migrate our workloads from on-prem to cloud, as I mentioned, and on that, Google is obviously one of the key partners that is there, and some of the discussions are going on. So on both the sides, first is, let's say, the ecosystem, because banking and financial services is still to a large extent is driven by OEM partners and their, let's say, implementation partners. So their certifications, their comfort, their kind of willingness to deploy or host application on any of the cloud can be one of the considerations. So that needs to be kind of firmed up as far as specific to Google Cloud is concerned. Other, I guess, largely from an operations part, and though the kind of tech stack and the capabilities, the extensibility that I've seen is probably at par, if not better, the way it has evolved and is kind of maturing with time. Uh, the one thing from an operations point of view is, I guess, the compartmentalizations of various Google component needs to be brought in at one place so that the entire manageability, the entire, let's say, invoicing and operation side of it, of managing the cloud can be much more better. These would be two suggestions from my side as far as Google Cloud and their services are concerned.
Rohit, Shashi, here. Zach, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I think operations is an area that I think can get a lot more maturity. So, you have the three major cloud providers, right? Google being one of them, and then you have Azure and AWS. So, a lot of the companies may decide to, for example, go to a cloud provider that is not Google. However, Google has services that they want to be able to leverage in a managed way. So, for example, Apigee is one of them, and Apigee is a very powerful platform for APIs to be able to host your APIs and the ability to be able to manage it. And if you're on a cloud provider that is not, Google, how to seamlessly integrate that and then leverage it as a managed service without having to pay for the latency and some of the other aspects. So being able to leverage each other's marketplaces to be able to enable those managed services within each one of the cloud providers. And what that does is allows you to move into a much more of a hybrid model for some of these things. So what you're not locked into is the managed service of that cloud provider to be able to get it done. So operationally, what happens is, as a consumer of cloud services, you maintain the control. However, a lot of the workings and how the operational challenges are actually picked up by the company that is really good at it because it's really their product that they have supported and put into open source.
But just as we come to the close of this conversation, I just want to get in comments from Rohit as well as Shashi. Rohit, first, what are the big trends that you're seeing, and would you like to share your closing comments?
Yeah, sure. So I think the trends have been discussed in the last 45 minutes quite extensively, and these are the trends that we are also seeing. But just to recap, I think customer experience is top of the mind for every BFSI customer for the institution. It's how about leveraging cloud, about leveraging AI to give a next level of customer experience to the end customer. So that is one big trend, and this is an area where cloud can play a big role. But I think the second key trend that we are seeing, and this is again something which has been discussed extensively in the last 30 minutes. Anubhav talked about it when he said about being at the point where the customer is, or for that matter, the health ID. The trend is really about having a connected ecosystem. Okay, it is no more that the branch or the office is the point of origination of a journey. Today, the customer's journey can get originated at any touch point. Now, what that means from a BFSI perspective is two things. One is there is a lot of data flowing around, okay, and you have to keep that data secure. And therefore, there is a need to invest in an API platform that is able to manage the movement of data, but also able to do it in a very, very secure fashion. The second thing is leveraging this ecosystem to drive things more than just customer experience. And this is again something that we discuss. It's about also addressing the needs of financial inclusion, whether it is making credit available to the underserved sections of the population, or whether it is being making um, insurance products available to these segments. So these are the two things that I think are absolutely key trends that are emerging. The first being customer experience, and the second being a connected ecosystem where as a financial institution you are where the customer is, rather than a post facto thing to be done.
Okay, nice. Providing next generation customer service, reaching where the customer is, and of course, the usual, the operational efficiency, optimizing risk, continues to remain top of mind. Anubhav, I wanted to understand from you as a closing comment, what is it that keeps you up at night, and what would be your ask from your technology partners now for the next step?
Sure. I think I'll start with the expectations, and I think I've been talking to Vikram and the entire Google team about it as well. I think India is a very regulated environment where we want all the things to happen within the country region itself. I think there are a lot of services which are available with Google Cloud, and which my tech team like really loves to use, but they are not yet available in India, including things like Google Workspace. So I think one of the asks which we have been talking to Google team, from here to Valley, has been to bring more and more services into the India region faster and faster, because we are really excited about the new releases coming in. That is the first part, right? I think overall, what keeps me awake in the night, I think a company like ours, who is sort of on the front runners, we always believe, and we want to continue to look in the hindsight, or continue to look in the rear view mirror, that is any new zero high emerging, what happened to the securities world, right? So far, we have been lucky that, there is no one who's like really challenging like the way Zerodha did to the entire trading market. But I think we have already, sort of set up a team. We have already allotted budget. It's around becoming truly disruptive from the within the company. So I think that's what we are looking at now. So not much to lose sleep as of now, because sort of the plan is in place, and we have started working towards becoming much more agile company from a digital organization perspective.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to take your leave on that. Thank you very much for your time as well as perspective to understand how you all are leveraging sophisticated, technology, architecture, cloud, digital products to provide seamless services and an enhanced customer experience to people like me, making your organizations agile as well as secure. Truly, the financial landscape in our country is going to change for the better. Thank you once again for your time as well as perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.